hello everyone. Welcome to our forum. I'm going to talk to you all about what Listen Up is, and then I'm going to talk to you about Speak, and then we're going to have a little bit of an introduction so we know each other's names and get a little bit more comfortable with each other. So, Listen Up is a program in which we give the youth a voice to have a part in the conversation. We notice that a lot of the youth don't have that much of a say because we are seen as younger and not well developed. So I feel like we are developed. I feel like we have very well working and oiled brains, and I feel like we definitely have the ability to have conversations. So that's why we are here in this forum today, to allow us to be a part of that conversation. So yeah, and we are partnering today with Speak, which is a community media center that provides access to media, labs, studios, and equipment and classes. So if you guys are interested in Speak, you guys should tap on that. So yeah, thank you for partnering with us today and letting us use this beautiful studio. It's amazing here.
Colors.
Amazing colors. And the month's Speak theme is youth voices. So, now that we've sorry, now that I've done my intro, we're going to do self-introductions, and so yeah, I'll just start. I'm gonna say my name, my pronouns, and then I also have an amazing question. The question is, what age do you feel like you are right now? We had this question. We talked about this a bit in dance class, and I was like, oh, I'm totally going to bring this in today. So I'm really excited. So my name's HELENA. I, she, her pronouns. I'm a part of the Listen Up Youth Board. I feel like I am the proper age of 4 years old. I've not started school. I'm very energetic. And I'm still learning self-control. So that's where I'm at. Should we popcorn or just go around?
Just go around.
Okay, round robin. Round robin. I'll go this way because it's here.
Okay. Hi, my name is METI NEGEWO. I'm also a co-facilitator today with HELENA. And to answer, my pronouns are she, her, but to answer your question, I feel like, not gonna lie, I'm in my 20s right now, like maybe, I don't know, 25. And I say that because, I don't know, school has started and the stress is building up. And to be honest, I feel like I have the load of responsibilities equal to maybe a 20-year-old would have. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Hello, my name's INDIGO DAVITT Liu. I've been with Listen Up for like a year and a half now. And I feel that I'm probably around the age of like a college freshman, so just 1 year up, so 18. And that's just because I do full-time PSEO, and so I'm just in classes with college freshmen, so why can't I be one of them? I don't know who to pass it back to.
Oh, do you understand
Hi, I'm Anaya. I haven't been with Listen Up for very long. My pronouns are she, hers, and I feel like I am 14.
Hi, my name is KIIN. My pronouns are she, her, and I feel like I'm a solid 60-year-old. And the reason why I say this is because I'm lazy, I'm tired all the time. I feel like I deserve to retire at some point around this year, so that's my reason.
Hi, I'm DEZARAE. Right now, currently, I feel like I'm like 55. I just feel like I have a really old soul. I like old music, old TV shows, antique things, so I'm a little too old. So, yeah.
I'm RENA. I have been with Listen Up, I don't know, like just this summer, for the Youth Media Institute. And I feel like I'm either like 90 years old. Oh, yeah, okay. I feel like I'm either 90 years old or like 7. There's like no in between. I'm really like, I cry a lot and I'm really grumpy, but I also have like an aggressive amount of energy at any given time. And I sleep a lot. I feel like that's, wait, okay. Maybe not, instead of a 7-year-old, I'm like a newborn. Yeah, I think that's more accurate.
All right, and I'm Mia. I've been here with Helena probably the longest, besides M. I use she, her pronouns. I'm also a part of the Listen Up board. And right now, I'm feeling like a well-aged 40-year-old. Just kind of, straddling the line of trying to be young, but also feeling quite tired with everything. So,
Midlife crisis.
exactly, midlife crisis. Exactly.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for speaking your truths. And thank you for coming. This is an amazing space, and I'm really excited to get through this forum with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question. Are y'all ready for it? Yeah. Okay. Just a quick question. We feeling popcorn with the forum or feeling round robin? You can pass if you want to. Round robin? Okay. Took that from my teachers. Okay, so the first question is, what are some rules that you think should be revised in order to make it a better environment for students? At school. At school. Okay, what are some rules that you think should be revived in order to make it a better environment for students in school? Oh. Okay. Sorry. Forgot one thing. We have to go over guidelines. Okay. So the reason why you have guidelines is because we like to make sure that we keep this a safe space and make sure everyone feels good to be talking about their truths and what they are in their life experiences. So I'm just going to read through that so we all are aware of what the Listen Up Youth guidelines are for the forum. Take space, make space. Share time on the mic. Speak from your own experience and honor others' experiences. This is a space where we can 100% agree. Just be responsible and thoughtful. Be open-minded and use open language. Don't put others down. Be respectful. Overtly racism, sexism, homophobic, queerphobic language is not welcome here. Racism, sexism, homophobia will be checked. Okay. Do we feel good with those? Do we have any questions? Okie dokies. Going back to our question, I will repeat it. What are some rules that you think should be revised in order to make it a better environment for students in school? I will start with this question to ease into it. I think a big thing at my school, I'm going to relate it more for COVID for me, is that with lunch, it's like a big issue that, for right now, it's fine-ish because I had the decision to go outside and it's nice outside, but one day it was raining and no one wants to eat in the rain and you get forced to eat inside in the cafeteria where there's a bunch of people with their masks off, and when you try and go somewhere else, they yell at you, and it's not safe. It's not a safe space. And so trying to allow students to feel safe to eat in their own school is probably the most ideal thing we should figure out. Like, your kids need energy to get through the rest of the day. So if your kids don't eat, what are you going to, like, I don't know. there's been days where my friends have gone without eating when it's raining outside because they don't want to take their masks off in the cafeteria. So, I don't know. It's stressful.
Thank you, Helena. For me, I think due dates have been a pressing issue for me. And some teachers are very lenient. I won't group them into one mold, especially if you're really busy. Like, some teachers are completely fine with letting you turn in things like maybe 4 days later than the official due date. But in general, most teachers are very much like, oh, okay, you have to turn it on this day, and if you don't, you'll lose 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever. And I find it very, very, very irritating. I think it's completely disregarded to the lives that students have outside of school, family issues. And even though teachers are like, oh, if you have these types of issues and if you come and tell me, I'll give you an extension, it comes to a point where sometimes you don't want to mention this problem. You just need the freedom to have your own time to do the assignment and get it in when you can. And I think schools focus so much on efficiency and how fast you get things done that we forget that effort is the most important thing, and even just accuracy on the assignment rather than when you turn it in. And I think if we had less due dates, I think a lot more students would have higher grades than they do. And I think there would be a lot less failing students, because sometimes these failing students are only failing because they turned in something late and lost 50% just because they turned it in like a day later. And I don't know, I think it's something that's, I don't know, like very controlling, and it almost makes me feel like I'm in a school full of inmates where we have to get things done at this time, and if you don't get it done at this time, you're a bad student. Da, 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 da. So, yeah.
I really I feel that too, but I really related to like the stuff about COVID. I know going to school personally, I get really anxious. Like, I'll be in a whole like lecture hall with like tons of people, and you'll just hear like constant coughing. And I wish that there were better options about going hybrid or going online, but there's not. And like, I don't know, I feel that has been adding to my anxiety a lot lately, because I know there's people that are sick, and I've like heard of like a lot of cases happening, and people are like, yeah, like there's like several kids with COVID in my calculus class, and I'm just like waiting almost for the ball to drop in my classes, and that's very worrisome.
So, would anyone else like to answer that question? Okay, how about KIIN?
Sorry, I'm also a co-host. Okay. Sorry, I'm also a co-host. And the bathroom. I have a problem with the bathrooms. Why do I have to ask to use the bathroom? It doesn't make sense. I'm almost an adult. Like, they expect me to pay taxes and whatnot, but I have to ask to use the bathroom. Like, it doesn't make sense. They prepared me my entire life, you know, and then like they'd like want me to decide my life in like 9 months. So the least they can do is like let us use the bathroom. There's also people who don't feel comfortable asking to use the bathroom, since like with gender, but also with like people who do just like feel embarrassed, like raising their hand and asking in front of the whole class, hey, can I use the bathroom? So I think people should fix that, aka the principals, even though they won't, but like highly recommend. Okay, that's it.
Are we taking our masks off?
If you want to.
Okay. I guess the thing that kind of bothers me the most about like coming back to school about like after 18 months of being like online is that like me personally and a lot of other kids have gotten used to like not being around as many people all the time, and not being in the same building all day around the same people, and like it's really loud. Like schools are really loud, and for people with like sensory issues or anxiety, or even just like people without sensory issues or anxiety, like it's still overwhelming. And the fact that it's like not addressed really, I mean like I guess we're lucky at my school that like the teachers like mention it, I guess, but it's like it needs to be addressed more because, like, it is, like, actually incredibly stressful because, like, your social battery runs out so much quicker than, like, on Zoom. Zoom sucks, right? Your Zoom, like, your energy runs out so fast. But it's, like, being around so many people all the time is, like, really exhausting. And I think that that's an adjustment that, like, obviously teachers are making that too. But I think everyone needs to be a little bit more, like, aware of that.
Yeah, I have to agree with Rena on that. Like, I've noticed that I've been getting tired a lot more. Like, right now, I am tired because I just came straight from school. And I think that tiredness, like, adds into, like, not being used to being around so many people again. And there's, like, a lot more people at our school than there were before. Like, I'm sure, like, Helena, you've noticed it, but, like, it just seems just so much more encompassing when, like, you're going through the halls, or, like, you're just watching, like, our big lunchroom being filled with people all the time, and it's like, oh my god. And it's just, I think also a lot of the tiredness and the stress is being added on through, like, you know, all the work and stuff. And I agree with, like, METI about deadlines and just, like, teachers being really harsh this year. I'm feeling like a lot of them just are not giving any leniency to this awful, like, hard past year and a half that we've had. And I know my friend who you know, is really struggling with math right now, and the teaching guidelines for at least her math class, I'm not sure if it's for the entire math department at our school, it's like you can't do, like, retests. There's, like, barely any other way where you can, like, get your grade higher if you don't do well on the test, and, like, the tests are like 80% of your grade. And it's a really just awful system, like, grading system that they have. And I know I had to experience it last year too, because I had the same teacher as her, but it was a little easier online because, you know, the teachers still didn't know what was going on. But it's just, you know, it feels like now that we're back in school, teachers, I just think, like, schools in general think that, you know, we're back in person, things can go back the way that they were before, and, you know, apply, like, the stricter guidelines that they wanted before COVID. But in reality, no, you should not do that, because that is so immensely detrimental to, like, our well-being, you know, being back with a whole bunch of people, a new, like, routine for a lot of us, especially those who are, like, coming into high school or, like, going to different schools. It's so overwhelming all at once. And I feel like a lot of teachers are trying to help, but I think there's just a lot of the administrators and just, you know, the people who make decisions at our schools just aren't really getting that. So those are my thoughts.
I wanted to add on to what KIIN said about the bathrooms. Is, like, so today at my school, we do also have a thing at our school. They close down the bathrooms, and it's usually because people are vaping in the classrooms, and they make a big deal out of it. But I think, like, the worst part of it is that today, like, they closed down the all-gender bathroom because people were vaping in there, and apparently that's a big deal. But, like, that was, like, there's, like, no all-gender bathrooms except for, like, 2, and they closed them both down in my school. And my friend who identifies as non-binary came into class, like, and they really had to go to the bathroom, and they were just very upset over the fact that, like, they closed it down and they had nowhere to go that they felt, like, comfortable with going in. And I feel like that's, like, is that not really messed up? That's, like, you're taking away the right of someone to feel comfortable in their own space. Luckily, I did tell them that there's, like, a secret bathroom in the nurse's office, but, like, it shouldn't have to come to this. You should have bathrooms accessible close to your classes and stuff that are for you. So yeah, that's another thing that our school needs to fix. Because I don't think vaping is a reason to close a bathroom. I feel like going to the bathroom should be a right, not a privilege. and I don't think it should be something that's taken away from us. So, yeah.
And okay, so I have like the struggles of like being a student, like coming back from COVID, but I also like my mom's a teacher, and so I know how hard it is for teachers too, but I also know that like a lot of the like one, teachers don't get paid enough. Schools are underfunded, don't have the resources to like provide their students with resources, and that literally comes down to like administration and like state level stuff, which I'm not like the most educated on this, but like the like state officials and like people who are making the rules about going back to school, funding schools, like what like state regulations like for testing and stuff, are all people who are like rich and like white. So like, why are y'all making the decisions for like the people who like, especially in the Twin Cities, like a lot of like the schools that are like overpopulated are and more dangerous for kids are Black, brown, and indigenous, like the highly populated schools. And it's like you're literally putting people in a position to be harmed. Like there's no other way of saying it. Like you're literally putting people in danger. Like especially, and like teachers too. Like you're putting teachers in danger, you're putting like students in danger, you're putting like everyone's families in danger too. It's like it's a whole thing. That's an iconic picture.
I was gonna add to that. So I guess another question is like, for me to you guys as a group, I'm out of high school, but I just finished high school last year, and one of the things that I wanted to know was how is it with ever since George Floyd and like feeling like the injustice within the system, is that reciprocated into the school system as well? Do you notice that? And like, how does it affect your ability to go to school? Because I even know from like, even before, it was still hard for me. Like I still suffered being a person of color going to school and not often getting my voice heard or being seen as a threat to society just because of my skin color.
Okay, so something to talk about that. Something really embarrassing happened for South High kids, for us. So if you don't know, it's in the news that our teachers, our ex-principal's license was revoked because he didn't get the training or whatever. And he's trying to get that redone so he can get 2 more years to try and get his license again. And his reasoning for not being able to get it done in the past 2 years is him blaming George Floyd and him saying that the reason he couldn't get it done was because of George Floyd and everything that happened. And personally, I wasn't surprised. I'm not surprised. I mean, I feel like I've seen this multiple times where white people try and use the downfall of the POC and to their own advantage. And it's just like, how can you do that? Like, how can you do that with a straight face and act like you're going to get what you want? And if he does, I'd be so embarrassed. It's embarrassed. We're like a social justice school, and you're really gonna blame. He's a white man. He's a middle-aged white man, cisgendered. He is like the most privileged man I've ever met, and has the nerve to say that. Like, in a social justice school shows that he has not learned from our community at all. And so it's just embarrassing. Like, my French teacher was talking about it in class. Like, it's embarrassing. Everyone is so embarrassed. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Yeah.
I just want to speak on this topic about South High because I go there too. But you know, because I've talked about this in both my Spanish and my history class, and it's like, why isn't this being talked about like with us outside of classrooms? Like, why aren't we being like talked to, like not by word of mouth, but like directly from the sources? And it's like I had to hear from another student who was doing a report for our newspaper on the subject, and then I had to hear from my teacher, and it's like the way that we hear about such important things like about our principal is just by word of mouth. We hear it from friends, we hear it from students in the halls, and that's just such an ineffective way of spreading such important information. And you know what Helena was saying about, you know, our principal being white man, checking all the boxes, cisgendered, middle-aged. It's just I feel like he just doesn't really get South in its essence because, one, he's not from Minneapolis, not from Minnesota. He's from Colorado. Yeah, and it's like I feel like if we want to have a principal who is representing South High, the largest school in Minneapolis, I'm not sure about the Twin Cities, but you know, a school that hosts like an amazingly diverse like body of students. Like, we're the largest school in Minneapolis. We have like so many different cultures and backgrounds being represented within our student body, and then we're being represented at a principal level by a straight white guy, cisgendered, from Colorado. I just don't think that's like something that we want South to be represented by, especially by someone who is like having George Floyd's death as an excuse, having George Floyd's death as an excuse for the 2 years he was allowed to get his license. He had 2 whole years. I know there was a lot going on with Corona, and I understand. Like, I'm not saying that, you know, we didn't all have our hardships throughout this entire time, but he had 2 whole years. You know, there was an off time where, you know, schools were scrambling, but there was an off time where there were no students in the school. You know, we were all just kind of up in the air. And, you know, it's getting harder and harder to say that, you know, he deserves to have his position back at our school. And it was just so much. And I wanted to talk about it in class, but we had to get on to class. So I'm glad, like, we got to bring it up. Currently, we have a superintendent making principal level decisions and an assistant principal acting as an interim principal within the school. So like looking over. Yeah, it's a lot. But yeah, it's really frustrating as a student having, you know, to see all of this and not being able to like discuss or talk about it with, you know, other people. So.
Okay, thank you, Mia, for sharing your 2 cents. So another question that I would love for us to talk about is, how does your teacher impact your experience in school based on their own beliefs or teaching style? So, you know, if your teacher is conservative, like, how does that impact you? And just a little reminder, let's keep our answers brief, you know, for the sake of time, but we love to hear what everyone has to say. So, Indigo, would you like to start?
For this one, I'm actually going to go back a little bit to like middle school, because I had several teachers that were very, I don't know if they were conservative, but they definitely weren't like trying to understand the diverse student body. They were these 2 old white men, cis, all the stuff. And they were both history teachers. And I remember like this one teacher in like 6th grade trying to quote unquote explain segregation and going around to every student and saying like who he would have been able to like hang out with or something if it was like the 50s. I don't know, it was insane. And so he like walked around and like, so it was like a majority POC class and just been like, I couldn't have hung out with you, to like every kid in the row. And I don't know, it's just, this is just a memory coming back to me, but it's like the insanity of public school out here is like, I don't know. That was a wild moment. And then the wildest part was there was this, my best friend at the time was like Greek, like her parents came from Greece, and he was like, you're on the edge. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, what is this teaching us, for one thing? And then like also it's like, for me, it's like, how does that make any of the students feel? Like, that you like go around and we're like, nope, not you. Like, you're not, like, I don't know. There's something there. And then also, yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything else. But I think it's like, it's like teachers who like aren't educated and like are actively not trying to understand their student bodies and like what their students need or their students' experiences at all, I think really affects like, you know, how much students want to like participate in class or like how much work you want to do for that teacher when it feels like the teacher isn't like doing any work for you or trying to understand you or understand where you're coming from. So I think it's really important that teachers should like, I don't know, at least make an attempt to like understand their students' experiences and like validate them.
All right, so let's go back into the ye olde times in middle school. And basically, during Black History Month, we were watching a documentary about black people in Black history. And so I sit in the front. Well, I used to sit in the front, and I'm like a doodler, so I have to like doodle and like listen at the same time. And I got pulled over by the teacher to the corner of the classroom. She started going off at me. She was like saying, "Oh, this is important. It's Black History Month." And then like she was just like being so rude, and I was like on the brinks of crying. And then she didn't yell at the other students, even though I'm like one of the only few like Black people in the classroom. And like what pissed me off even more is like there's this white girl sitting right next to me, and like she's using her phone. That pissed me off. I swear to God. Like there's like a lot messed up with that because she's acting like I didn't know my own history, which pissed me off. But like what's even more twisted is that she like doesn't care what they do. And then another thing she does is she ran Holocaust studies. And let me just say, what she did was extremely wrong. She kind of like makes people like make dolls of like Hitler. Yeah. And she's white, by the way, so. And like we do like fashion shows. It's so dumb, but like she kind of like did that. Like she made like Muslim Black people and like Jewish people very uncomfortable in that very classroom. So I don't know how like she had that job. They kind of switched the school around. It was called Barton Open School because I don't know why, but like what she did was really wrong, and it really does hurt my feelings to like think that there's still people out there, because I know like especially in SLP there's a lot like I can't, it's too much, but like yeah.
I'm sorry that happened. But I remember when I was a kid too, and I think I was in middle school, I had some kid, we were watching a Ku Klux Klan video, and I remember after class, one of the white boys walked up to me and he was like, "Who's worse, the Ku Klux Klan or DEZARAE?" And I remember like how I reacted because I was very like, I really like to use my voice when I was younger. So I remember I got in trouble off of the way of reacting off of him. And I remember like at my school too, how the girls were like obsessed with my hair. And like the white girls would touch my hair and like they'd pull on it and ask me if it was real. And I remember like for a long time I struggled because I wish I had white features. Like I remember like growing up, I wished I had white features so I could fit in. And like I remember like, you know, it's sad because you don't really think about that stuff until later on in life. You're like, wow, like I really wanted to be a white person, literally. Because I remember when my mom wouldn't straighten my hair, how I would just have like these fits. Like I would just have a fit and be like, well, why aren't you straightening my hair? And I wanted to fit in to look a certain way. And it's messed up. Like that's how you know that the system is trying to brainwash all of us. So
Yeah, I agree. Basically also during dance class in 8th grade, I had my hijab pulled by like this girl, I thought she was my friend, and she goes to watch right now. She was like, how do I explain this? She was a clout chaser. Anywho, she pulled my hijab, and basically, like, the teachers didn't do anything because it was like, oh, it's just like, they brushed it off. It was like, oh, it was like an accident. And it's like, I had a pin too, so like the pin went in my neck. It was like I was so disgusted. So like after that, I didn't dance for like a year, and then I started getting into dancing again with my friend. I can't say her name because I didn't ask permission, but yeah, chill. Yeah, we're chill.
Oh wait, do you want? Okay, so something at my school that like really okay, so my school is like has this, I think it's like this idea that we're like super like liberal and hippie and like granola and like loves everyone, and then when anything like basically the only thing that is like mildly addressed is homophobia, because all my teachers are like white queers, and like whenever there's an instance of like this kid literally like when I was in 6th grade, this kid and like we have these little like practice rooms in our band room, and so like they're like soundproof kind of, and there's a bunch of kids in there, and this white dude, he's a really annoying kid in general, and he just like went off on this dude and like called him the N-word, and like we like 5 of us heard it, and we're like, okay. So we went and told teachers. Nothing happened. Literally no one did anything. And our head of school is this white dude, or he's our old head of school. He left, but he didn't do he didn't do anything. And we like talked to multiple teachers, and the only person who did like anything was one of our black teachers, like one of our few black teachers. And even at that, he was like, I don't know what I can do, because like no one above me will listen. So like there's, I think a lot of like liberal schools have this idea of like, we're so loving and accepting and like social justice, and then when anything happens, they're like, well, sorry, we don't want to get involved. And I'm like, what? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and Métis, I just want to ask what the question was again, because I've just been very invested in all of your guys' stories.
No problem. I can refresh. So the question was, how does your teacher impact your experience in school based on their own beliefs or teaching style?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I feel like, teachers teach, obviously, but I think beyond just teaching the subject that they teach, they're also just teaching, certain mannerisms, certain behaviors that they'll exhibit to their students, because we as young people, we're impressionable. Like, you're going to be impressionable for a while as you're still navigating the world and everything. You're still learning. And when the people who are teaching you, the people who are deliberately asked to help you learn are, they have malice within them, I guess, just like not good-hearted kind of, just, I don't want to say vibes or energies. It's just like, I don't know, I can't find the right word for it, but it's vibes. Yeah, I just wanted to say something a little bit more smart, but I don't know, I just feel like when teachers come to teaching with bad intentions, or just, selfish intentions too, it impacts you whether you notice it or not at first, or even if you notice it at all. And I think when teachers, do these kind of behaviors, whether they notice it or not at all, it just, it impacts you. There's just ways that I don't think I can even explain, like how, it impacts you, and you realize this, and you have to unlearn this kind of behavior or beliefs or kind of thinking. And I just think, if you're someone who wants to get into teaching, like, because I want to get into teaching maybe, I think it's just important to understand your intentions and, you know, do a lot of self-reflection, because you're going to be teaching impressionable young people who are going to be foundations of the next, you know, generation. It's just, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of bad teachers out there who just, you know, hurt us all in a lot of ways, like we've been saying so far. So
Thank you, Mia. And to answer this question as well, so basically, I lived for Minneapolis for 11 years before I moved to the suburbs of Sartell for freshman year of high school. And basically, my dad moved us because he found a new job opportunity there, but really it was also because of the education opportunities and the increase in education standards and quality in the suburbs. And I struggled with it a lot at first because for me, like my friends, my family, everything I knew for those 11 years of my childhood were in Minneapolis, not in the suburbs. So it was a hard move. But what I noticed once I got there for those 2 years was a lot of my teachers were conservative, or what they like to call it, like moderate. So like a Republican Democrat, if that makes any sense. So like they're Democrat, but not really. And the teaching style was very much to the book, very much we don't have discussions, we don't talk about politics, we don't talk about social justice, we just learn the curriculum and move on. And teachers never really added any nuance to what our lessons. They never really added different perspectives. It was just whatever it said in the textbook. And it really affected, especially in me and my history classes, when we talked about slavery or when we talked about any sort of historical event, they would forget to add the aspects of race, the aspects of gender, the aspects of sexual identity, the aspects of all of these things that makes up a person and makes them a person. Instead, we would just focus on, oh, this happened and it only happened because of this one single thing. And really, history doesn't work like that. There's always a lot of factors that go into it, but that was never discussed because it was a non-social justice school. After those 2 years, I moved back to the cities again, close to the cities. So now I'm in Apple Valley. And now my teachers are like 50-50. So we have some liberal teachers and now we have some conservative teachers. And what I notice is that with my liberal teachers, I feel a lot more heard. I feel a lot more comfortable when walking into class. I feel that the rest of my peers also feel heard and comfortable learning in class. Versus when I go to my conservative teacher classrooms, I'm a lot more tense. You can literally feel the air in the classroom like heat up. No one really wants to be there. And we always have like an awkward every 5 minute, like the teacher says something insensitive and everyone looks at each other because we're like, did she just say that? Did he just say that? And no one knows what to do because if they call out the teacher feels some type of way about it. But at the end of the day, to wrap this up, what I hate about the subjectiveness of our education is that depending on how the teacher views certain things in the world and depending on their political or affiliation or whatever background, I feel like every single kid gets a different type of education, and that doesn't sound right to me because I feel like students deserve the chance to receive an equitable, equal level of education. Like everyone should be getting the same type, not some kids getting conservative and some kids getting liberal and some kids feeling comfortable and some kids feeling uncomfortable. But yeah.
I don't necessarily have like a direct experience with this. I mean, like I have an experience, but it's not exactly like this place, this time, this moment. It's more just over 9 years. Yeah, so in my K-8 middle school, it's a social justice school, charter school, all that. I graduated with 10 people in my class. It was tiny. And I think the biggest thing, like I said, it was a social justice school, which means a lot of like civil rights movement and all that jazz. So things that like relate to POC. And my biggest issue with that was that we were only taught this by white people. We didn't have a single, well, okay. one later in my life. She was never my teacher, and that was it. But we had no POC teaching us about the civil rights movement, anything like any social justice issues in the history and all that. And that was like all that we learned about. And I mean, it even goes as far like the last 3 years were like the most important years, right? You learn the most. It's like you're old enough now to get the cold, hard truth. So that's what we got. We got the whole cold, hard truth taught by a 60-year-old white woman who her affiliation was she was a part of the civil rights movement. She's so woke, la-di-da-di-do. She's the founder of the whole school. But you still said the N-word when you were reading the book to us multiple times. Like, you still don't understand the affiliation. You still, even though we literally wrote letters to you, we talked to you about, like, how problematic you were as a teacher. You cried. You played white woman. You played, like, victim. Like, I just don't, I didn't know where to go from there. Because at that point, like, it wasn't even like harsh words and like all the like it was like the students were split in half, but like I guess this is a personal experience, but there was a time where a bunch of students wrote letters that were very kind. I read them. They were very kind and well thought out to the teacher about how problematic she was and things that she needs to improve on to help the better learning of the students. And this was needed. This was very necessary, and I feel like she didn't take it to heart. And I mean, well, she did take it to heart, but she didn't take it the way we wanted her to. And the way she did was she cried, made the whole class hate the people who wrote those letters. Like, that's how it was. They literally like got pissed off at them for trying to make their learning experience better. And so that was just astonishing. That was the first time I've seen white woman tears right before my eyes. So, yeah. There you go.
Okay, so throughout my like middle school and high school years, I've been in a lot of IB and AP classes, and I'm a senior now. But in a lot of my IB and AP classes, there aren't a lot of black and brown students. And I feel like teachers who teach those courses don't know how to handle black and brown students. Like, they're so used to the normal kind of white students that are usually in those classes. And I take an ethnic class at my school where we talk about this as well. And they pointed out how teachers teach people who act the same, like in IB and AP classes, basically. All the white kids are very like respectful and like quiet or something like that, similar to that. And when black and brown students who have more of an extroverted personality or like a loud personality try to express themselves, they don't know how to handle that correctly. And I think that's something that needs to be fixed. I think we should see more representation of black and brown teachers in IB and AP classes, and also give those kind of opportunities and support and like chances to black and brown students, because it's not something that's talked about a lot, like taking IB and AP classes. I didn't learn about that like in my middle schools, and I didn't learn about that in high school, how those are an option for us. I had to figure that out on my own. Teachers never were like, hey, this would be a good fit for you. While I've seen them do that with like white students. So I just feel like, yeah, AP and IB classes need to fix their teaching styles.
Real quick before we continue the conversation, we have a new member in the group, so let's real quick just name, pronouns, and we'll get right back to it. So I'm Helena. I use she, her pronouns.
I am METI. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Indigo. I use they, them pronouns.
I'm Yasmin. I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Anaya. I use she, her pronouns as well.
Hi, I'm KIIN. I also use she, her pronouns.
I'm Rena. I use they, them pronouns.
And I'm Mia. I use she, her pronouns.
And just to go off of what Anaya had just said, I was nodding my head like vigorously the whole time because we touched on AP and IB classes and BIPOC in those classes, and it triggered something for me because I've been in a lot of AP and IB classes, and the one thing I noticed is especially black girls in those classes have tendencies to be a lot more opinionated, which is literally, there's nothing wrong with that. That's just a personality trait. I personally am also opinionated. And I remember like those types of AP classes, the teachers are used to white kids who just go with whatever the textbook says and they're like, okay, they accept it and move on, right? But, you know, when we, like us black kids in the class have questions about if this is accurate or not in the textbook, or we voice our opinions about how sometimes the teacher will say, well, we have to think about slavery in the context of their, like, and then we would say, well, what context? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're in 1980 or like 2021, you still, there were such things as morals. And when people express these thoughts that contradicted to the book teaching in the class, a lot of times the teachers ostracized those students, and so did the other students in the class for being different and for having a different mindset than what the textbook was telling you is true. And when you touched on that, I think you bring up a really good point that black students especially aren't given the opportunity to be in AP and IB classes without feeling out of place or having some sort of imposter syndrome when in the class. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up because I think that was really important.
Before we move on, I want to give you the chance to speak your truth and reiterate the question. How does your teacher impact your experience in school based on their own beliefs and teaching style? If you have anything to add on that, you can, but I don't want to force you into anything. This is pretty relaxed and chill, so if you have anything to say.
So I currently attend a Christian PSEO course or called institution, and one thing I've noticed is that as the only black Muslim girl there, a lot of, especially in my historical perspective class, when we're talking about certain things, for example like Islam or Judaism, they kind of brush over some major topics. And versus Christianity, I understand it's a Christian institute, but at the same time, there are students who are of different ethnic backgrounds and faiths. So it kind of feels ostracizing, like you said, to be in a class where the teacher doesn't acknowledge your existence or just who you are in general. So that does kind of make you feel different in your classes.
I want to add on. Okay, so also as a black Muslim girl, attending AP, IB classes and sometimes normal classes, since our school is mostly white. And when we get around the corner of 9/11, or we're learning about Islam, or anything that has to do with Islam or slavery, it's interesting because I'd be one of the few black people in class, or Muslim, and I'd be stared at by all the white people, and it's really uncomfortable because they act like I was there when 9/11 happened, or if we talk about religion wise, as one of the few people that is Muslim, what if I'm gonna be opinionated because what you have is wrong, the textbooks are wrong, Muhammad wasn't peace be upon him, was not the founder, so I'm gonna correct it. So I don't want them teaching something wrong. And I feel they teach if it's anything but Christianity, they tend to get many things wrong, so people would correct them too. So I think that should be fixed in the curriculum to fix their really old textbooks.
Like what you're saying, I wanted to bring up, I feel like teachers, when you try and like maybe correct them, they start getting really defensive. I understand like you're a teacher, you're like older than us and everything, but if a student who obviously is of being that whatever that topic, and you're getting defensive and you're like, well, this, we have to understand, I gotta think about this. It makes you feel kind of, I don't want to say dumb, but especially like in some of my classes, I felt like, am I in the correct class? I feel like I'm not supposed to be here, and I'm just like confused how, as an educator, you feel comfortable to make your student feel like their ideas or what they're saying is, if it could be true, you're making them feel like you're not correct, like just stop talking. So I feel like that's what educators should be doing better at.
This isn't necessarily about the question, but just about what everyone has been saying about like feeling out of place in classes. I've really related to that. Right now I'm doing PSEO classes and I'm in like a lot of STEM classes, so like calculus and physics, and classes where it's primarily white men. And it's like definitely, it can just feel very out of place and very scary. And then one thing I relate to a lot is like just like finding people to like study with or do stuff with. And it's like I've had professors be like, there's no way to succeed in this class if you don't form a study group. But then you go to a study group and it's like, I don't know. I have this friend who's also in my class and I like said their name. Their name is I. And like these kids made fun of it for like a decent amount of time. And it made me feel so uncomfortable that it's like these white kids just like sitting around kind of like laughing about it. And like I wasn't. And it just like, it was a very tense moment. And so I just wanted to say like, there's definitely like, yeah, like our institutions need to be better when it's like any kids that like you feel like you do, you know, anything like more than standard, and it's like you just feel out of place and like it feels like no one is there for you.
All right, so we are at our 2-minute crunch time. The way I would like for us to end the conversation is go round robin. One word to describe how you feel after having this conversation. And I can start. I feel unlocked.
I feel de-stressed.
I feel relaxed.
I also feel relaxed.
I feel understood.
I feel relaxed too.
I feel like it went by really fast. But I feel like kind of excited to have more conversations.
And I'm feeling heard.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I think this was an amazing conversation. We didn't get to all the questions we had, but that's all right. I feel like that means it was successful, and we all had a lot to say. And we all really heard each other. So thank you for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful night.